Hello, listeners, and welcome to this week's episode of I Never Knew But My Dog Did podcast. So happy that you are here joining us this week. I have the most incredible guest for you. And what's interesting about my next guest is that I met her in an unconventional way, which is so appropriate because she's such an unconventional gal. And so, start off with who am I? I am Maureen Scanlon. I am a master life coach and I help you recognize and elevate your self-worth and self-confidence to live your desired life. I am also an author and entrepreneur and obviously a podcaster, and I just am ADHD super powering all day, every day. So thank you all for being here once again. Thank you for all of your positive feedback. Thank you for all the 5-star reviews. I love you all for that. So today I'm going to talk to you about Pam Deanna Jones. She's fan freaking tastic. So on Facebook, I'm in a group where you look for a guest or you can be a guest on a podcast. And I reached out, and my love Pam came back and said, "Hey, and she just summed it up really quickly. And this is how she summed it up. My moving truck was stolen full of everything I owned. I bought a backpack and went overseas for 3 years. I recently published my comedy travel memoir, When in Rome, about the journey. I'd love to be a guest." Like, so simple to the point. And all I could hear in my head was, yes, 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 please, yes, yes, yes. So let me tell you guys a little bit more about her. So, California girl Pam has always been spontaneous, but then a 3-month trip overseas turned into an epic journey as she backpacked around the world solo. Solo, guys. I've said this before: when you break up with someone or you're in a sort of, I don't know, in between state of needing to heal, do your solo stuff. It is life changing and it puts you on that trajectory of self confidence. But I digress. Her sarcasm and optimism got her into and out of trouble through Africa, Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia, Australia, and New Zealand in the 90s. And we are going to pick her brain about her trouble. So, pre-internet days, Pam would sign her letters home as an homage to Indiana Jones, and it stuck. For 25 years, she's been told to write about her adventures, and it's finally here. Her debut book is a comedy travel memoir called When in Rome, and I cannot wait to read it. I'm so excited. And it's all about her hilarious and dangerous mishaps. She also married her high school sweetheart after years apart, and they have 2 loving twin children and a lovely, beautiful golden retriever named Sawyer. Is it a yellow lab or a golden?
It's a yellow lab.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. Sorry, Sawyer. I'm so sorry. It is a
He
yellow.
forgives you.
They look so much alike, but it is a yellow lab. So without further ado, welcome to my beautiful new friend, Pam.
Hi, Maureen. So glad to have you to be welcomed into your show here.
We are honored and so excited to hear about your adventures. And I was saying to you offline, I admire you. I admire anyone who just throws caution to the wind and says, I'm just doing it. I'm just doing it. So we start here on I Never Knew with our knee story. So our knee story is really that moment, which when I heard your moving truck was stolen full of everything you owned, I figured that would be a really good knee story that
Yeah.
change that trajectory for you. But if there's something else, please share. But our knee story is really when we've come to a point in life and we've said, wow, what I've been doing is not working. I'm not feeling my best. I don't feel in my purpose. I don't think what I'm doing is where I'm supposed to be. Can you share with us? And it can be, I know we have many throughout our lives, but can you share with
Yeah.
us your knee stories?
Yeah, I grew up in Los Angeles, just north of LA, in a little town with most famous for Magic Mountain theme park. So that's where Bugs Bunny and those characters reside. And I thought I would move to San Diego and begin my adult life in my early 20s. So I was 22 and I packed up. I just spent a few $1,000s getting my first apartment full of furniture, and it was all brand new, and I felt like a grown up. And I moved my moving truck down to San Diego, and I was I thought I could still drive the normal speed. So I didn't realize with a big truck, you got to drive it much slower. So I was a little bit late to work. So I show up to a fancy area of town called La Jolla and I was waiting tables and I park the moving truck. I run inside and I go, I'm going to be late. And they go, we don't need you tonight. Here, have a glass of wine. You look really frazzled. So I probably sat there for 15, 20 minutes. And when I came out, the moving truck was gone, baby gone, full of everything I owned, had the outfit on my back.
Oh,
And luckily for me, I had just closed my LA bank account for $3,000 and I had it on the bag in the front seat and I thought, no, let me just shove it in my pocket. And thank God at least I had some money so I could
oh,
begin again a little bit, you know. But the restaurant was so kind. They gathered up a few $100s and got me some new clothes and things like that. So that
oh,
was devastating because it's more than just material things. It's your grandma's old letter or your old stuffed animal when you were a baby, or it's just the identity that goes along with those things that you've taken the careful to time to choose to make it part of your life.
oh,
So I think,
how devastating. Like we talk about
yeah,
those LA fires, they're talking about it on the
yeah.
news and
Oh, that's been on my forefront right now of like, oh, these people have lost everything, and I know that feeling, and we've had a few friends that have lost everything in these recent fires. So I know what they're going to have to do to rebuild, and it's painful, but you get there, you know.
yeah. And it makes me mad when I hear people say, "Oh, well, that was a wealthy area. They can replace all that stuff."
I hate that too.
Right? No, you can't. They're like you said, you've got those things that are sentimental that you
Yeah.
have an attachment to. I was watching a episode of Irrational, which if you guys get a chance to watch Irrational, it's absolutely fantastic. And I learned a lot of psychology. And he did something last week where he was talking about the longer we have something, the more attached we are to it, and the more we think it's worth. So when you have
Mm,
an heirloom, you're so attached to it because somebody else
yeah.
had it for an amount of time that was connected to you. It's an ancestral connection.
Right.
And you lose that and you feel like you actually lose a part of you, even
I
though it's a
felt that way.
thing,
Well, I
right?
think the more if there had been a fire and I had 30 seconds to grab something of mine that was a favorite, it would be my photo albums. This was in the 90s before everything was on clouds and camera phones and all that. So you just had your photo albums, and that would be the first thing the thieves would throw away. They don't care about that. So I just never saw anything again. And they found the moving truck the next day, and it was smashed. They had smashed the ignition to take it. So it was and luckily for me, I had bought the $8 insurance, so I didn't have to cover the U-Haul truck. So that they were trying to charge me thousands. I'm like, I don't have it. So um, from there, I thought my sister said, she goes, well, you can just go buy all that same furniture. You remember where you got most of it. And I thought that I just got furious. That will make me so upset to have to go redo the life I just did. I go, no, I need a whole different change. So she and I ended up moving to Park City, Utah. And we just literally two mattresses on the floor. We found a picnic table in the trash with two chairs, and we brought it up, and that was our dining table. And we just lived there for the snow season. And I waited tables there again, and I met this guy Jay, and we weren't dating or anything. He'd only started working there a couple weeks, and I go, "What are you doing when the snow melts?" He goes, "I'm going surfing in South Africa." And let me back up a little bit more. My grandparents are British, but they lived in Egypt and South Africa for 10 years in the 1930s. And then my mom had gone to Africa when she was in her young years in the 1970s. She went to Kenya and Tanzania. So I'd grown up hearing Africa stories. So my face just lit up. Oh, that sounds amazing. And he just casually goes, "Oh, you want to go? The ticket's 11.75." And I went, "I have literally $1,200 in my bank account." So
Oh,
I
oh,
emptied my bank account, handed him everything but $25. And you're the first. He goes, everybody has an excuse of why they can't go. I go, no excuse here. And so I had $25. We were going to leave in 30 days, and that gave me 30 days to sell my car. So I sold it for $3,000, and I think the total I left with was $3,300 for 3 months in South Africa. So sorry for all the threes there, but that ties it together for me. So halfway through the trip, his sister gets married and he doesn't want to miss out and he goes home. Well, I feel safe and secure and I have friends there. I'm staying at places and I decide to at least finish the 3 month trip. Well, he's taught me so well how to save money. Literally, I'm not kidding. we would buy a $2 bag of rice for a week, and that would be our breakfast, lunch, and dinner. White rice, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I'm a foodie, and that was hard. But I'm like, and he taught me to wash my clothes in the bar with a bar of soap in the sink instead of $5 here at a cafe, $5 here at a laundromat. He just goes,
Mhm.
"You want to stretch every dollar." And we actually bought a car in South Africa and drove the whole entire coast. And then he left, and we sold the car on his way out. But I'd only spent $900 in the whole 3 months. So on the flight home, I got a wild hair and I kind of asked the stewardess, "Can I get off the flight in Malaysia?" She goes, "Yeah, your ticket's good for a year." I go, "I didn't even know what Jay had bought." So I called my mom, who was going to pick me up in, 13 hours or something. I go, "So don't pick me up. I'm going to stay in Malaysia for just a week or two." She goes, "Okay, have fun." I've got to love her adventure spirit as well. And then
Yeah.
pretty soon, "Hey, I'm in Singapore. Hey, I'm in Sumatra. Hey, I'm in Bali. Hey, Australia's right there." So I started working along the way and ended up being gone for nearly 3 years. So that's how that began. And I'm happy to share some of those wild adventures too.
Oh my gosh. And I know listeners, you're with me. You're with me on this. I'm getting anxiety just thinking about just stepping off a plane in a country that I don't know the language, I don't know the culture, and I have, let's see, you spent 900, you had 3,300. Well, you were working a little bit in there too no, you
Just
weren't.
I was, but after about 7, 8 months of not working, then I began working along the way.
Oh my
But
gosh. And you don't know
I
where you're
had
going to
never not
stay?
been,
You just,
no idea. Well, I'd never not been picked up at the airport. So Jay had to teach me, what do you do in Johannesburg to leave the airport? I don't even know. So he's all, "Oh, you go to the visitor center, you find where the bus stops are, and you pick a town." And like, I just had no idea. So in my book, and I just wanted to clarify, it's Pam Deanna Jones, when in Rome, but ROAM, like you're roaming around. And I don't know if you can see right here, the cover is me. I'm on a bungee jump platform. I just told my friend I don't want to go. This isn't for me. He said, "Okay." And then he shoves me off. So that clarifies all the weird things I get myself into in the book and how it always turns out okay. But I'm just lucky to be alive with some of the dumb choices that I made. But yeah, the
that's just magical. The courage that it takes, the courage and fighting, fear and anxiety, which we were talking about offline. That'll be my next book, is the two things that stop us most in life is fear and anxiety. So obviously I've had an experience and I fear what's going to happen again, or anxiety. I don't know what's going to happen and I fear what I don't know. For you to go solo for A, that long,
yeah.
B, to just sort of, oh my gosh, I just envy that so much. To just say, I'll figure it out. And I'm just going to do a shout out to Jay right now.
Right?
Thank you, Jay, for keeping our girl safe and teaching her some travel tips that she's going to teach us as well. So
Yeah.
you get off in Malaysia, and where do you go? What do you do? What's your first step?
On I happened to meet two New Zealand girls in the airport, and we just decide, "Do you want to share a cab?" And once they hear I don't know where I'm going, I don't know what I'm doing, why don't I follow along with them? So we stay at a hotel. They let me crash on the floor, and we go explore this. Malaysia's quite well known for something called Batu Caves, which has rainbow painted stairs all the way up into this cave where there's Buddha deities and things inside. Well, I was there so long ago; it was gray steps all the way up. I think there was 272 stairs, and the reason I know that is because I lied about having a fancy room when I swam at a fancy hotel. They go, "Oh, can I put something on your room number?" I'm, "Well, yeah, 272." So, because I had counted the stairs that day.
Oh my
Um,
God, I love that.
but these Kiwi girls were just lovely. And we went to a bug farm and we learned how to tap rubber trees and things. So they already had some adventures planned and they just welcomed me into theirs. And then they left. And I took a bus to Singapore and met a couple of gay guys that took me out to dinner and showed me around Singapore. And then I took a boat to this tiny island called Batam Island. Just that's my entryway into Indonesia. And I met this guy, Jimmy, that was Australian, and he showed me around, taught me all about Indonesian culture, and sent me off on my way to the islands farther south. So, and I've learned to speak Indonesian, and I love it there. I've been back 4 times. I just love it.
Oh my
That's where
gosh.
most people would know Bali. They've heard of Bali. That's one of the islands in Indonesia. But I started in the areas, Sumatra and Java and things where most tourists don't go. So I had to learn quickly, where do you eat? And here's a little money and what do I do? And Asian countries are dirt cheap. So I still only spent $1,000 in another 4 months of this. And I have to clarify, this was in the mid 90s. You'll never get that kind of price again. And but it was still dirt cheap for you could live on $5 a day in Indonesia. So that is, and
Wow.
that's living it up, getting a taxi, going for 3 meals, having fresh fish and a beer. You could live on $5 a day, including your room that you were renting to sleep in. So that was a long time ago. And obviously Bali's more expensive than the rest of Indonesia, but that's you know, that's where would the Indonesians stay? What would they eat? That's what I did.
See, that is the thing about traveling. And I'm going to say this. I'm one of those when in Rome, I have to, and being that I lived in Europe, in Germany, for 3.5, 4 years, I made it a point because we lived with a German family. We didn't even, he wasn't even a high enough rank to live on a military base. So we had no
Mm,
choice but to kind of live with on the economy, with the culture
yeah.
and learn the language. And I think that was great. I was 19 at the time. So, and
Perfect.
it was in the 90s, it was early 90s, got there in 1990. And that exactly did the same thing. It planted that seed where when we went to France and they hate Americans, but I tried to speak French. Wherever I
Right?
went,
Yeah.
I really tried to respect the culture. When people travel, and you know this, Americans tend to go to a country and expect to be catered to, like use our money, use our
Yeah.
language, and I don't
Where's
like that.
McDonald's? Yeah. No, no thanks.
Yeah, no, no, I'm like you. In fact, my husband and I went when we went to Costa Rica recently, like we got to take this lunch with literally on the island with this Costa Rican family, and they have an outdoor kitchen and
Mm,
they make their pottery, and that's
yeah.
travel to me.
Yes,
I'm
me
not going to
too.
sit in a hotel and go to a spa and
No.
no, I don't. I
That's a
want to.
tourist, and that's okay too. And I've been both, but I prefer the down home, gritty traveling where someone goes, "Oh, you have nowhere to stay? Come to my grandma's house, and we're having a family reunion." And suddenly you're just having a celebration with this family of locals, and they'll never forget you, and you'll never forget them. And that was the that's when your face just lights up, if you made a connection here with people who you'd have never met if you hadn't got off your butt.
Well, it says a lot about your spirit and your soul and your kind heart that you attracted that. And I always say, what is
Thank
law?
you.
The law of attraction is that which is like itself will attract. And you just are this bright, shiny, beautiful, beautiful. And I mean, you were beautiful now, and I'm certain you were beautiful back then too, where you just drew in people that wanted you to be with them and to help you. And that's how we should be out in the world, whether we're
Yeah,
traveling or not. Let's be out
I
there in the
agree.
world. You'll meet people that are like-minded and
Yeah.
like-spirited, and you are a shining example of you can go travel for 3 months, guys, 4 months, however long, but be open-minded, and you are in their backyard. Like I always think about my backyard in my house here, right? I have a nature preserve behind us.
Oh,
And
fabulous.
it's beautiful because when we moved from Arizona to Texas, because I was feeling suffocated in the suburbs. So we find this beautiful house with this gorgeous, gorgeous nature preserve park behind us. And one time I went out in the backyard and there was a cow like 10 feet from my fence. And I was just like, hey, what's up? If
Yeah.
something comes up to my yard, I always think they were here first. They
Yes.
just like when you go to any place that you travel, that's their place. You're going
I'm
to
a guest.
their place.
Yeah.
Yes. So if something, and I'm not a critter fan, especially here in Texas, everything is bigger. It's
I've heard about those.
definitely they have these stick bugs that are like the size
I've
of your
heard about those.
hand. Oh, they're so fun. But I'm not the biggest fan of, I mean, coyotes are that you can hear like 200 of them out back. I want to get a night vision thing, but then I might not want to because then I can't unsee what's out there. But
Yes, true.
but that's what I always think about is I'm in the suburbs. We built a home in their area and what was their home. So I try very hard to allow them to coexist with me. So that was a shining and a long way to explain what a shining example of you saying, I want to learn about you. I want to learn your
Yeah,
culture, and then receiving the kindness and the goodness of strangers and fellow travelers. That's fun. Now, do
yeah.
they have did they have any hostels, or were the hotels sort of hostel like when you went to these countries?
Oh, yeah. Stayed in a lot of hostels in South Africa. And if someone doesn't realize what that is, it's more of like a dorm room setting. So you just share, there's bunk beds, maybe 8 of them, and you just you pay $10 or $15 for a bed. And you're just sharing it, men, women, whatever, stinky socks, vomiting, drunks, whatever. So Asia was a little more friendly with that because you could afford a whole bungalow to yourself. So a little hut with your own bed and bathroom and things. And a little hammock out in the front or something. So that's, you can find your ways to go cheaply.
Yes. Now, what
You
do?
reminded me of a funny story, if you don't
Oh,
mind,
no,
with the
not at
bugs you were
all.
just saying. I'm in Sumatra. I've decided to go to an elephant reserve where they rescue some elephants that need it. And I am alone at the resort. It's kind of a new hut resort where um, tourists haven't been there yet. And they drive you over to the elephant reserve. But at night, the guide, he goes home to his own house. So I'm alone in this resort by myself. And I've got a mosquito net and I'm kind of nervous. I'm in the jungles of Sumatra and I don't feel as comfortable. Like usually there's somebody around, so I don't know what to do. And earlier that guide has been a bit of a smartass. He said he saw me taking a malaria pill, and he goes, "No, no, no." He goes, "Let's go make our jungle tea that we make here to not get malaria." So I go, "Sure." So we walk through the jungle deep. He's got machete, and it's so dark. It's middle of the day. I'm wearing jeans and a yellow thin like tunic top, and he grabs me and he goes, "Ah, snake!" And it's just a tree root, and he's being sarcastic. So later, when he comes out of the jungle, when we come out of the jungle with all the leaves and vines and things that we'd gathered for the tea, he looks at my boots and he goes, "Oh, you've got leeches on you." So I think he's joking again. So I'm like, "Leeches on me?" Like, "No, you're being silly." He's all, "No, no, go fix yourself, like make sure they don't climb all over your body." So I'm like, "Ugh." So I'm a little freaked out by how that day went. So that night, I decide, since I'm alone in the resort, I'm going to sleep with the lantern on because I need to see what's coming into my room. So I fall asleep with the book that I'm reading and I wake up and there is a just a zombie apocalypse of huge jungle bugs all over my mosquito net covered. And I have to go to the ladies' room now. So I'm like, I'm just going, do I go in the bed? Do I grab a cup? What do I like? I can't get out of here. And I realize I can't do any of that because I don't know what the reaction is going to be. What if they climb into my bed or something? So the room is just a disaster. I don't realize they're drawn to the light that I've left on. So I go running back to the bathroom and covering myself with a sarong and I'm running back in and I, scrape everything off my body when I climb into my bed and I went, oh, it's because I left the light on. Like I'm not super bright, but just adventures like that only happen to me. My neighbor just looks at me sometimes and goes, "Weird things really do happen to you." I go, "You haven't read my book yet." She's all, "No, Mom, it always happens to me." So if somebody goes, 99% of people will love this, I go, "Well, what happens to the 1%? Let's talk about that because that's usually where I end up."
You know what, though? That's what makes you magical because you can handle it. I always say, I had the life I did because they knew I was strong enough to do it.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
if you have these experiences that are either comical or frightening, just know that you were given these experiences. You asked for these experiences because you can handle them. It's hard to picture that when
yeah.
there's a big giant bugs above you.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
I'm certain you're not going to be like Maureen once said to me, "Well,
I wanted this. Yes.
I've asked for this. This is
Well,
fantastic."
my whole book starts. Jay and I have decided from Johannesburg, we just got off a 25-hour flight. We're getting on a 29-hour train ride. So it's an exhausting few days of traveling. We decide on third class train tickets in Africa because that's what we can afford, and the first and second class are taken. It's a school holiday or something. So everything's booked up for weeks. So we jump on a third class train ride and it's all um, natives. the black faces just turn and look at us like, what are you doing in our spot? Like a white South African would never travel this way. So
Oh.
we're from LA. We're like, oh, we'll be fine. We have lots of black friends. Like this will be great. 8 hours into it, I have to go to the ladies' room again. So I run up through the train and just start checking out the food cart and all the food train. And I meet these two white South Africans that go, oh, we were going to come and look for you because the minute the sun sets, the security guard back there, he locks you in and goes to bed. And that's when everybody gets stabbed every night. And I go like, huh? So he goes, we're traveling with some workers. We're going to send them back in third class in your place and you're going to sleep in our cabin with us. And I'm traveling with a man, so they're not flirting with me. So we don't think anything of it. We just go, thanks, this is awesome. Well, the next morning, we have, and I'm freezing. My feet are freezing. There's a crack in the window, and I just can't get comfortable this whole night. So I'm laying down on this bed, and I'm just super comfortable, but my feet are freezing. And all I can think of is myself. So the next morning, we meet the workers that took our spot, a couple of men that were 5'4", and they are not black people and they're not white people. They are called colored people in South Africa. So I'm still learning their lingo and what's appropriate and what's not. But they are the darker skin, but the straighter black hair. So maybe from they're the Malay or maybe they're from India or something like this.
Mm.
But they had to stab someone. A big, huge black man came up to the little 5'4" guy with the black guy had the knife, and the other guy bent his arm under and made him stab himself. So the big black guy had to crawl back, bleeding all over the train. And the two 5'4" men had to stand back to back the rest of the night to make sure nobody would attack them. And I just cower in shame of like, my feet were cold, you know? So it's a very eye-opening first day that because I'm here, I caused a stabbing on a train and I better learn what I can't go stomping through this world. I better be more conscientious of, like you said, I'm a guest here and I can't go around the world just going, but I'm here now, you know?
I
So
know, like bravery is one thing, like, okay, I can just caution to the wind, but sometimes the caution to the wind is going to get
yeah,
you killed. And that
yeah,
was a great example. And bless your heart, you're like, oh my gosh, because you're compassionate, you're like, oh my gosh, I did this because I was not paying attention to maybe a little more safety. And of course, Jay contributed to that as well. And he didn't
yeah.
know much more than you did.
Yeah, we'd never been there before.
Which brings me to some of the tips that you have for us. So, if we are going somewhere, so for instance, and I know this isn't really a foreign thing, but my husband and I are going to Barbados in March. So,
Fun.
what do you suggest for people to do when, and it wasn't even on the radar. I just found it and I threw caution to the wind. I said, this is where we're going, baby. This is
I
what we're
love it.
this is what we're doing. So, what do you suggest if people do that? They book something, and here we are, Americans, and I'm gonna go live in this resort, and it's gonna be great.
Yeah,
I'm like you. I want to go out into
yeah,
the culture. I mean, I remember Dominican Republic, like we drove in these gigantic trucks and stopped at houses all outside of
yes,
this resort where the cruises
yeah,
stop. And we stopped and we saw them make cigars. We saw them
yeah,
making jewelry and out of their houses where they have
yeah.
dirt floors and barely any water. I wanted to buy
Mhm.
everything from everyone. So what
Yeah.
do you do in situations like we're going to Barbados? What should I do to research how to get the best experience, the best cultural experience wherever I'm going?
I think that's a great question. I typically go uh, where like the top 10 unique things to see in Barbados, or the top hidden things, or the top locals only things. So that's the type of language I use when I'm Googling things. Obviously, back then there was Lonely Planet books, but I didn't find out about those until I was nearly done with my 3-year trip. So I just was winging it the whole time. And one guy was angry with me. He goes, "You don't know about Lonely Planets books?" He goes, "You're missing out." And I smiled, like, you're buried in your book and you have to see what that tells you to see. I actually spoke with a local, where should I go? And they go, come with us. We're going to have a picnic at that waterfall that it's not in his book, you know? So I felt like maybe he's missing out a little bit too. So I like
Wow.
the balance of, some Lonely Planets books and some locals and some research, but I'm the traveler that wants to go wing it and see where the wind blows me.
Yes, yes.
So
And I know when you're younger, like you can do the hostels and stuff. Like my back would
yeah,
not
I don't
handle
travel
a
like that anymore. Yeah,
yeah, right. My back could not handle a bunk bed today.
yeah.
However, what I have found is save up for that trip. If you really want the experience, save up for that trip because the best trips that we've ever had when we went to Belize, and I didn't even know I booked this, but I booked a private tour, just my husband and I with a tour guide. I did not know.
Mm.
I mean, I've learned not to book things before I go, though. I'm going to give that
Yeah,
tip to everybody. Wait till you get there because, like you, Pam, I'm friendly and I'm always outgoing and open-minded and excited, and people love to show you what they're proud of. So when
right.
you get there and you're like, I'm so excited about your country and your city. Tell me what are some cool things that I can do?
Yeah,
I would love it. They love that you're interested. They love that you want to know about them and their culture. And if you want to really have a great experience, splurge on some of those extra things. He took us to the Mayan ruins. He took us on a cave tubing. He took us, God,
fun.
what else did we do? He took us, we had a private lunch that they made just for us. Like out in the wilderness.
Yeah,
I did not plan that. And it ended up being the absolute
right.
best thing ever. And my husband makes fun of me because he's like, you can coach anybody around the world because, he tells me his life story as we're driving, to these caves or whatever. But it's that vibe. Like you had, like, you just, if you're open and friendly and loving, it comes to you. It just,
Right?
you draw that in. And when it comes to travel, that's a very important thing. Don't carry yourself as if you're better than anyone or that they owe
Yeah,
you when you're in their backyard per se.
exactly.
Right?
I just wanted to say we honeymooned in Belize, so I know the country quite well. So
We did
beautiful
too.
spot, fun, adventurous. I just wanted to add a caveat though. Don't book anything ahead of time. It depends where you go and if that's the busiest time.
Yeah.
So if it's the busiest time of year, like Christmas Day is the busiest day at Disneyland, I wouldn't go that day. But we just accidentally booked a trip came up to go to Italy this last summer with my twins, and I'd never done much of Europe, so I felt like I had to book things ahead of time just because I knew it would be so extra crowded.
Yeah.
So, but I booked the trip in 2 weeks, and off we went. And I had a injured knee, so I was in a wheelchair all around the Coliseum. My poor husband's having to push me over cobblestone roads, and then I'm in crutches in Disneyland type crowds through Venice, and I get laryngitis and can't say excuse me. So I'm just getting smacked around in my crutches the entire time. So I definitely think there's another book in me after that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, how to make a lemon sorbet out of
Yes,
lemons when you're traveling. I think
right.
that'll be the title. And I love that you said that because there are some things that you do want to book ahead of time. For me, I
Just
always
one or two
tell
of your favorites and then let it go
yes.
where it needs to go. And like I took let me back up a little bit. I dated my husband Dan in high school, just 2 or 3 dates, and then he joined the army and he left when I was 16 and he was 19. And then we would always run into each other over the years, but we were always taken. And one day my sister calls me up, guess who's single? I'm all no way. So I lived in San Diego. I had just bought a condo and he was living in LA. And he goes, I'll come down and help you move in. And he just never left. He moved in the first date. So we crack our jokes to our kids. That's what not to do, kids, but it worked out in our case. But he'd never been anywhere. So I surprised him for his birthday with Costa Rica tickets. So his very first trip, he goes, we're young. We can go somewhere new every year. So I thought, oh, he's my person. He gets it. So we made that a pact. We'll do something new every year. And then once we had kids, it's like, the 4 tickets is way more expensive than one. So we realized if we can save up, like you said, and take them on a big international trip every 3 years, then that will be part of their childhoods. So when they were one, we went to Hawaii. When they were five, we went to Australia. And when they were eight, we went to Bali and Hong Kong. And then at 12, we went back to Hawaii. And then at 14, now we went on a 6 country epic European thing. So England, France, Monaco, mostly Italy, and then Norway on the way home. And Vatican is its own country as well. So turned into this 6 country epic journey there. So, but they're just like me. We loved our trip and we went through every museum. We looked at all the Baroque architecture and all this. And I said, "What'd you think of Italy?" And they go, "We loved it." They go, "But Bali." I go, "Yeah, Bali." They like the
Really?
jungles and the jungle and the barefootedness and So I'm glad we went, but our next trip will definitely be Cambodia or Laos or Thailand or something that's way more jungle.
Oh my gosh, I love that so much. I love that we are doing for my husband's 60th birthday next year. We're doing Ireland, which is our roots, both of us.
Oh, fabulous. My husband's
Ireland,
Irish. He would love that. Yeah.
yeah, we're doing Ireland, Scotland, and London. So we're gonna do the whole.
Wonderful.
And I have to say this, I'm not as great as you at the whole arranging stuff, so I do have a little anxiety if it's not planned as far as my anxiety comes from transportation. I think that's the only thing.
Yeah.
I don't mind finding the accommodations. There's tons of hotels everywhere you go, but the transportation is always the thing that seems to be challenging. And I know Europe. I lived in Europe, and they're so much better than here in the States, where every city has, they have the tram, or they have train, or they have bus, or whatever. So they're great, but my anxiety comes from I have to have that transportation down. I mean, I'm to the point where I hire the driver to pick us up at the airport because I have to make sure I'm getting
Yeah.
to my hotel.
That's
What
what we
would,
did in Rome. It's like, I don't want to get
okay,
robbed right when we get here. So it's a different kind of travel now. And I've
okay.
got my kids with me. I don't want to mess around. And I mean, I've made some serious blunders like the stabbing on the train. I can't do that with my kids.
Right. What do you think it teaches them? What do you think it teaches children to travel when you take your kids out? Because I had one trip when I was 9 years old to Disneyland, and I lived in Arizona. So wow, whoopee-doo. I had a 6 hour, drive in an RV with like seven
Yeah.
other people, another family. I didn't get to do this. And maybe that's why I have this bug so bad is,
Yeah.
man, I would have just loved to do more. So I gave
There's a
my
whole world out
kids,
there.
yeah, I gave
Yeah.
my kids a little more travel. What do you think it teaches kids when they are exposed to different travel and cultures?
I love that question. I grew up going camping. My mom was a stay-at-home mom, and at that time, they made financial decisions that led us to go camping, and a couple hotel stays here and there, but that was the gist of my travels. So when I went to Indonesia and I could see a naked 3-year-old kid pulling a Coke bottle as a little wheelie toy, I thought, look at that smile on her face. And she is singing. And I was thinking to myself, going like, where's my Barbie? I wanted this for Christmas or whatever when I was younger, maybe a little more spoiled of like, should be my way. And they're playing with dirt and they are having the time of their lives. They're playing with sticks and rocks. And my children have grown up seeing that. So they've never, when it was Santa in our house, they asked for surprises. They didn't have demands. And I thought that was part of that they just went, whatever Santa wants to bring us is the way to go. So I, I,
Wow,
I think
that's
that came from seeing that when they were young.
yes, oh my gosh, that's so fantastic. I hadn't thought about it. What it gave them was gratitude. It didn't give
Yes,
them, and
gratitude.
you took away entitlement and replaced it with gratitude, where
Yeah,
you can go and travel and you see that kind of stuff and you think, I need to be a little more minimalist. There are things that
yes,
we don't need. I need, a roof
yeah,
over my head, but I don't need a mansion. I've always told my husband, if we won the lottery, I wouldn't do anything different. The only thing
right.
different is I might buy a new car because I have an older car, but I love my car. It's a
I get the
convertible.
same one but newer. Yeah. Well, we talk
Seriously.
about that when it gets up to be $1 billion. We go, what would we really do as a family? We're like, we would buy little condos all over the world and just go travel to each one, and that would be fabulous. So I think
Seriously.
that, well, it teaches them compassion too. In um, other cultures, maybe treat their elderly a little bit more. We just shuffle ours away. Oh, you're too old for life now, so off you go into an old folks home. Well, the grandmother's very revered, and the grandfather is revered for their knowledge and wisdom in every other culture around the world. So I think just seeing that displayed is so much more like, how can we adopt some of those into our lives instead of just go about
Right.
our Southern California life? We got to do the rat race and everything. No, there's a
Yeah.
lot other lives you can be a cowboy or an astronaut, or you can go live in a hut and be a fisherman and be fabulously happy no matter what you choose, whatever's
Ooh.
right for you.
I think that's a perfect place to end and tell everyone how to find you, how to market you, and
Oh, thank you.
how
Yeah.
to find that book. Everybody go buy that book and make sure when you buy the book that
Thank
you
you.
leave a review. So
Thank you.
she is on Amazon because I personally went to Amazon and looked it up. So it is there. Where else? Do you have a website or anything like that?
Amazon is probably the best place just for shipping. The moment I published the book, everybody that was in it that had been around the world, they wanted to get a copy too. So I became an international seller overnight. So South Africa, my Australian friends, my New Zealand friends, they all bought a copy right away. So Amazon is the best for shipping quickly. So my website, if someone wanted to, it's pamdeannajones.com, but I'd prefer it's so much easier with the shipping on Amazon. So it's a paperback on Amazon or it's ebook on and even Kindle Unlimited. If someone has a Kindle Unlimited subscription, it's in there as well. And I'm currently
I
writing.
do.
Oh, good, good. I've
But
just
I
added
go
I've just
ahead.
added some book club questions at the end, so it's perfect for a book club because would you would you hitchhike as well? Did Pam make a good decision there, or would you eat that weird thing, or would you trust the people that you're traveling with? Um, but I've added a QR code as well for each each town I visited had a song that was popular in the 90s. So or just that I had brought with me that reminded me of that town, or certain lyrics remind me of that town in a quirky way. But there's a QR code for the Spotify, and there's another QR code from my website to see some pictures, which I've got to upload way more. I've just got a few on there now, but I'm currently writing my second comedy travel memoir, where it is I go to a lot of these people's countries to visit them. I've met so many people. They go, come visit me next time. Come visit me. So I do. And one girl takes me all through the South Pacific. She goes, let's go. I'm going on a tour to learn how to do ecotourism. That was the new word in the 90s. So we go through Easter Island and Tahiti and Moorea and Fiji and Western Samoa and such. So that's coming soon. I was just typing it up right before we got online today. And even
Wow.
I've got something here for the teenagers. My grandfather was an adventurer as well. Like I said, they lived in Egypt. He wrote a book called The Secret of Oak Island by Bertram Smith, or you could just look it up through my Pam Deanna Jones name as well. But this is a real treasure hunt. There's a history channel that's got a 10-year show running about how they can't get to this treasure because the ocean water rushes in. Well, I found this in the dusty attic. It's been sitting there for 60 years unpublished. So I just published his work and it's out there. It's like the Goonies, it's like National Treasure, it's like Outer Banks. So it's perfect for probably 8 years old on up. And there's a few golly gee willikers in there for the elderly that want to remember the 60s as well. So just a fun thing to add to it. And I love that I've been signing my books when I do book signings. I've been signing it Come Adventuring with Me. And his first page starts with Come Adventuring with Me. So I feel really connected to him in that way too, you know?
Oh, you know I have something for that. That is not
Yes,
coincidence.
my skin's tingling right now that he's
Woo!
going, finally, my book is out. I worked so hard on that, you know?
That is fantastic. It's that's what's beautiful about, our ancestors is, they came and they did things for us that we don't even know. And when
Right.
you carry on those legacies, it's such a beautiful gift that you give them and that you did that for him. I mean, he is
Yeah.
just absolutely thrilled
I feel
and
him just beaming, but I always have to be careful. The treasure hunt one, Secret of Oak Island, is for children. My book, When in Rome, is definitely rated R. There's a few
okay.
F-bombs that have to be dropped. There's a few scary moments. I'm swimming. I'm learning to scuba dive while it's following me. While my hand is gushing blood, I've sliced it on the chain coming down, and I don't know to get out of the water. So just there's only one appropriate word when you see the shark. So that's I think I'll find more women like me that know what that word is and happy to read my book. So
Absolutely. I feel you on that. I was paddleboarding in Hawaii and you can't paddleboard on the ocean. I don't care what anybody says. So you try to go straight, but it turns you sideways.
yeah.
And there were these really sharp shells underneath. Same thing. I cut my foot, but I
Oh
was
boy.
aware of it. And I was like, all I could do was just get on the paddleboard and just be like, oh my God, don't have like a single body part in there where I can finally get to the shore. So I'm gonna just enjoy this book to the nth degree because I'm gonna be able to relate so well to this. And
Oh
you're
good.
You are amazing.
How
I
fun.
I just think it's
Thank
so
you.
fantastic what you bring to the world, how just your humor and your lightness and just you're so you can just tell when someone has that spirit that people just want to know you and you bring that to the world and there's
Thank
no
you.
judgment and no criticism and I'm just honored that you were here with me today to
Thank you
share
so much
this.
for inviting me. Yeah. I think as a
Absolutely.
I think as a memoir author, you feel a little like every writer is going to feel a little shy about, I hope they like my ideas. Well, as a memoir writer, it's times 1,000 because I hope they're going to like me and my thoughts, not just my imagination. It's like I have to be authentic to the 90s. I have to use words like stewardess that we don't use as much anymore. So I'm like, okay, I got to tell the real story. And some of it's bad and some of it's good, but it's all hilarious, I think.
I think it's perfect and it's clever. And as a
Thank you.
nonfiction writer myself, I've always said that I admire fiction writers because I just the imagination it takes to create characters that you will love. With us, we're just like it is what it is. Here I am,
Yeah.
and this is what happened,
Yeah.
and take me or leave me.
I apologize
Um,
ahead of time for my obnoxious behavior.
I know. And if I'm repetitive, which I am, my husband likes to tell me, sorry guys, it's my ADHD, but I think we all have a story to tell, and whether it's fiction or whether it's real, I think we need to share that with the world. It's how we
Yeah.
connect with each other. So I'm going to close it out. I have one thing that I do since things are really heavy, but this was not a heavy podcast, which is
Yeah.
so, thank gosh. It was for me a very
Me too.
nice break in between some of the heavy stuff that I talk about. But I do segments at the very end, and I created a new one today for you. And
Thank
this
you.
one is called Settle Down Now. And I want to know what's something that you fidget with?
Um,
And
like
you
something
have,
that makes me emotionally uncomfortable or something that literally like twirling my hair or something
yes, like
maybe.
a hair
Um,
twister. Are you like a pen clicker? What do you?
oh yeah, I'm a pen clicker for sure. Hair twirler, and um, I've always got a hair tie on me, so I'll put them up, put them down, put them up, put them down, depending on what my needs are. Menopause. You ladies know what I'm talking about.
Oh,
So
for sure, for
sometimes you're hot,
sure.
sometimes you're cold, sometimes you're hot, sometimes you're. But I
Oh
have
my
long hair,
God.
so I don't want to cut it. So I'm up, down, up, down. But if I'm riding or if I'm anywhere near my dog, I'm just fiddling with his ears and petting his face. So I'm sure you can relate to that.
I love it so much. I love it so much.
That's a
And
fun
they've,
question.
that's you are like excellent for the very first guest ever to have done that segment. So what's fun is if you're I'm high functioning autistic and ADHD. So what's fun is there are a ton of little fidget gadgets like this, and this happens to be one
Oh,
of my
right.
favorite, and I got it from
My
my
son loved those. Yeah.
Yes, I can't figure out how it works, but that's what I like about it is it's just fun. My daughter gave me one where I'm going to put that when I do the segment again where I'm going to show everybody. It's like this, it's almost like putting two pens together and twisting it in your hand like this.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? But it's more fun because
Yeah.
it's faster and quicker. But well, thank you, my love and listeners. I know that you enjoyed her, and I know that you want to go get When in Rome. That's ROAM, and it's under her pen name, Pam Deanna Jones. I will have that link. I will have her website, everything up for you guys to find it. If you can't find it, again, I'm always here for you to reach out to, and I'll get you guys in contact. I'm honored that she was here today. So, a little housekeeping for me, make sure that you go to Amazon when you're buying her book and also maybe buy my books too. So my dog is more enlightened than I am is the very first book. And that's really more that spiritual finding yourself, finding your purpose. What am I doing here? Through the eyes of the dogs, where life can be so much more simple if we just do what they do. And the
Yeah.
second one is geared toward and sharing my story about past narcissistic relationships, but it's geared more to how to have a healthier relationship, which I never knew what to do until I finally let go of those people pleasing ways and
Yeah.
discovered I have a choice in what I want and what I'm asking
Right.
for. And it's what really graduated me to being a dating coach, a relationship coach, and a self-worth coach. So you'll love it. I mean, it talks about long distance dating. It talks about sex. It talks about questions to ask, the different phases of dating, when to ask what questions, how honest to be, finding respect, and
That's
all of
brilliant.
it brings up dog examples. So it relates to what we're going to talk about in the chapter. So you guys will love it. So that one is My Dog is My Relationship Coach. And then last but not least, my children's book, My Dog Bexley is Just Like Me, is for your 6 and unders to learn reading. It's repetition, which they learn. You can replace your dog's name with replace Bexley with your dog's name. And it also teaches mindfulness early, feelings are okay, self-care is necessary. So get them started early on that. Don't forget my doggy boutique where I make homemade treats. In fact, today I made a big batch because we have little pop-up shops that we do here in Austin on the weekend. So we're going to be in Round Rock this weekend. So all kinds of apparel, fancy collars, even tutus that I make, we hand make. My partner, my best friend Pam, makes reversible bandanas that are Velcro so they don't hang down. And you know how sometimes bandanas they trip on them or whatever. Well, these are
Yeah.
fantastic and handmade. So everyone just go check it out. Go buy your puppies some Valentine fun tutus and bandanas. So my dog is everything dot net is where you'll find that. And I ship it out within 24 hours. So you'll get it quickly and by Valentine's Day. So I love you all so much. Thank you so much for being here. Again, those 5-star reviews. I hate to be a beggar, but I'm begging. So
We
I
need
can't.
those. We need those.
And reviews on the books. Make sure that you give a great, wonderful 5-star review to Pam's books. Get the one that's her
Yeah.
father's or grandfather's as well, because that's super fantastic for those young readers. So until next week, my loves, make sure you take care of yourself, take care of each other, but more than anything, please take care of those furry babies. Be
Yeah.
sure you go and you adopt and do not shop because there are so many forever babies out there ready to pick you. I swear they're going to pick you. You're just going to see them and you're just going to connect with them just like you do with people in the world. That puppy is going to choose you. And I'm going to add this, which I never say this. I'm going to be having a podcast coming up and we're going to be talking about death. So, in relation to death, when you lose your furry baby and they are family members and it hurts just as much
Yeah.
as losing any member of your family, sometimes more. I might be partial, but I want you to
I
know
agree.
they only live 10 to 12 years for a reason. They are not tainted by overthinking. They are not tainted by bad behavior. They are not tainted by anything because they're pure and innate love. So they only have to be here for 10 to 12 years. They don't have to be here for 75 to 80 years like we do to work through all our stuff. So, that being said, when you lose a furry baby, go get another one. I know a lot of people say, I can't do it. It would hurt me too much. I can't replace them. You're not replacing them. What you're doing is you're sharing the love that your furry baby left a space for. And they leave that space because they have friends that need that love too. So you can have 3 or 4 furry babies in your lifetime or more, maybe 5 or 6. But don't deprive another one of the love that you could give them or that they can give you out of guilt of thinking you're replacing because your furry baby left a space for that because that's all they are, unconditionally loving.
That's beautifully said. I think your passed away pet will help you choose the new one as well and pick the right one for your family.
100%. I love that you said that. And I do. Every time, everybody I've talked to that got a new baby from a rescue or from like, your local shelter has said, they found me. I walked up and down the aisle and
Yeah.
I saw that face and they looked at me and they sat by that fence waiting for me. They pick you.
Yeah.
There is a soul connection, just like with everything. You have a soul connection with people, and we definitely have it with animals. And yet they're nonverbal, and the only way they can show it is by being there for you. So be there for them, guys, and take care of them. So I love you all. Don't forget, you can find everything about me. You can ask to be a guest. You can schedule a free discovery call for my coaching. And of course, my books are all there. So as well as my speaking, my media page. So that's at lifecoachmaureen.com. One-stop shop. So I love you all. Until next week, take care. Mwah.